And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. What's up, everybody? This is Nick from P2W Fantasy here with Stephie Smalls on our Skrip to Ships show. I'm just very happy that we got this kicked off because both Stephie and I were having terrible issues. I don't know if it was a connection thing, StreamYard thing, or what the case was, but we figured it out and we're both here. So I'm just happy we're kicking things off. Stephie, what's been up? What's been up? I know you've been super busy. You've been coming out with some cool things. Always active. What's up? What's new?
I'm just glad you can hear me. I mean, Nick and I just spent probably like 10 minutes trying to get him to hear me. So I'm glad that we figured that out. Nothing new.
It's funny too, not to cut you off, but I felt like we were both like these like tech people because we were trying all these different things to get everything to work, but all good, all good.
I've never said, can you hear me more times in such a short frame. I'm like, can you hear me, Nick? Can you hear me?
It's like,
but no, my injury tracker came out. Very excited about that. That's obviously something that's like near and dear to my heart. So to be able to have that in one spot is very exciting. Same old, nothing too exciting. What about you other than your adorable child and your new flag behind you?
I got a lot going on with that. We got the birthday coming up. So I'm just like trying to get the pool out back going. I've ordered like a crazy amount of Trolls decorations for that. She's in the other room, I think, like yelling in the bath, but all good, all good. Can't complain about too much.
The kid troll.
No, like the actual colorful ones, not the guys in the basement trolls. But I was gonna say with the injury tracker, I'm excited about that because I feel like there's stuff out there to look into, but having something constantly updated, I think is going to be extremely useful for people that are like, hey, my ESPN app says that this guy has a hamstring injury and that's all it says. And they can go to something like that and be like, well, this is the true story to it.
Right. And it's so hard. I think like since I started getting more and more involved in the industry, it's like, why is it so hard to find the injuries? Like just put them all together in one chart and then let's be done with it. You know, it should be clear, concise. I try to take the medical jargon out of it. You know, even a learning curve. I took out a column already, trying to update it and make sure it's as easy and, user-friendly as possible because it's impossible to get concise, like quick, easy. Like I don't know how many times I can say easy. It's just very hard to get medical information without like going on Google crazy.
And jumping through loops and probably researching too many sites. So again, one stop shop for something like that, I think is awesome. Just went live Tuesday with Bob Lung and John McLean. That was awesome. We talked about the expo and talked some Twitter hot takes. We had some videos, so that was a fun episode. Probably planning on doing every Tuesday and Thursday until the season and then expanding from there. I retired from coaching and I might like coach again. So it's like this weird dynamic too. So just excited to do more football related stuff. But
I'm so excited. Bob is in my Scott Fishbowl division.
Hey, that's awesome.
I found out last night. I was so excited to see that.
What for people that don't know, what division are you in? What pick?
I'm in Journey. I have the 12th pick. Stefania Bell is also in there. Christopher Key. There's a lot of really cool people in that division. So it's nice to see. I think Bob Lung was about, one of the last guys to get added in there. So it was a nice, icing on the cupcake there.
Absolutely. And that was the first time I talked to him and he's just a great guy. I mean, he was just all for being on the podcast, answering questions. And I can't wait to have a beer with him at the expo. I'm the 8th pick in the Halsey division. And shout out to my guy. I'm a big Halsey fan. I went to a Halsey concert.
Girl.
I went to a concert. I was there. I was there rocking out a couple of years ago. I was probably feeling too good at the time, but it was awesome. Shout out to my guy D Brown's in the same division from Sons of Dynasty. So I'm excited to compete with him. But yeah, a lot of people excited about Scott Fishbowl and their divisions. And I think it just brings everybody together because we're all talking about the same thing and we can relate no matter, who we work for or how big or small our pages are. So shout out to Scott Fish.
And it gets you to network with people that you don't always, I've already connected with people that I didn't, we might pass by each other, but you have a little bit deeper of a connection. So it's pretty cool.
We got Sam, shout out Pick 12 chat. I know there's a lot of chats going on. It's been awesome. So before we get going with our episode, as always, show is partnered up with the Fantasy Points Media Group, which is part of Fantasy Points. I've been putting out all these crazy graphics about how you can find all this information in one spot. You can use it for your leagues, redraft dynasty, research for content, so many different alleys of information all in one spot. So check out fantasypoints.com/subscribe. Promo code for a discount, 21WIN10. All right. So what Stephie and I have going on today, we're going to talk about some recent news, maybe some camp talk, things like that I'm sure nobody else talks about on Twitter already, but we're going to talk about it together. And then we're going to go into some early picks for players in positions that can finish in the top 12 in 2021. And then some guys that we think will drop out of that top 12 from this previous season. So I think it'll be a fun episode, and we'll get that kicked off here shortly.
To win, no fear to give. I feel, but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip. They don't understand. I play to win. Yeah, I play to win. I play to win. Yeah, I play to win. I play to win. Oh, play to win. I play to win. Yeah, I play to win. I play to win.
So, Stephie, you mentioned your injury tracker, and I see all the time people talking about content that they are looking for, or there's people that make content and they ask people all the time, like, what do you want to see out of my page or my website or things like that. Let's go both sides of it. So we'll start with our favorite. If you had to pick something that stands out to you as, hey, this is my favorite sort of content, or content maybe that you're currently looking for, what comes to mind for a type of content, maybe a topic or something along those lines?
So what I'm looking for, or what like I prefer to do?
What you as a consumer you like to consume, for those that are looking like, hey, what should I do next, or what sort of content?
Okay, so I'll play both sides of it. So as far as, a writing side of it goes, an article, whatever, it needs to be not too wordy, right? I love a list, a good list. I love bullet points. Keep it short and sweet. Let me be able to scan it and get the information that I need to get. I think one of the bigger problems is when people go crazy into, the analytics, and you start getting a little too wordy, and you're going to lose people there. It's very easy, especially someone like me. And that's not everyone. I have friends that adore that stuff.
Sure.
Spreadsheet, happy, love it. But I think for the average person that's looking at an article on lunch break, that's not what they're into, right? So from the writing side, that's what I want. And then as far as video goes, it's also, I think maybe the one thing that they both have in common is don't make it too lengthy, right? Quality over quantity. But I prefer video content. I think it's easier to digest overall. It might also be my lifestyle, right? It's something that I can put on in the background. Even if I'm not watching the video, I can be listening to it and kind of, be an active listener a little bit. So between the two, I do lean video over podcasts, but I prefer, video content in general over an article, because life is crazy, and, it's very hard for me to sit down and read an article. It's going to take 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can hear you with that. I feel like people want to consume some information, but get to the point at times. Me personally, I think I'm that way. Like, I like hearing people's sleepers and trade targets, but I also want like the concise, to the point why. I think the why is always important, because it's easy to like make a, and I love the people that grind the TikTok stuff or the quick videos. It's easy to like show pictures of players and say, these are sleepers. But if you have like a 3-sentence, this is why this guy should be targeted, that's something I personally like to consume, just because I'm seeing a different perspective, but then I'm kind of understanding to the exact point, like, hey, this is why I'm thinking this, without all these graphs and things like that. And that's not a knock to anybody that does take the time to do that, because I know that the long articles and the longer YouTube videos and podcasts, it takes a lot of time and effort. But I think if you're able to, get to a point and make it a good one, to the why, I personally like that.
Keep it concise, right? Same thing with my injury tracker, right? Someone wants to go on lunch break. They want to, take 10 minutes out of their day, like between changing their kid's diaper. They want the information. They want it quick. And, I think the standard person plays redraft too. So they're looking for quick answers. They're not as crazy as all of us. This is our lives. This is what we eat, breathe, sleep, this. So you want it to be very approachable, consumable content.
And we got some great people in the chat. Robbie Rumboy's video definitely better. Troy King video with the greater signs there. So I definitely agree to that. And I think also, yeah, the casual fantasy player probably just wants to get prepped for their upcoming draft and outlooks for the season. So again, like I've been trying to do every now and then like a 2-minute video, throw it on Twitter of like, this guy is somebody that, should be looked at more. This guy's falling in drafts. And then I just like in 2 minutes, like get to the point, because for one, you can only upload a 2-minute video straight to Twitter. And then for two, I feel like, I don't want to go on and on for days about things like that.
Which we very easily should, but catch my attention in an article. Maybe I might read a little bit more, but it's much easier to consume video content, which, probably says a lot about our society, but it's okay.
Hey, it is what it is. You got to adapt to the times. That's for sure. Even me, I'm trying to do some TikTok stuff every now and then just to like stay hip and cool, but also like spread content in different ways. So
right.
let's shift into some recent news. Had a decent amount of things. We see a lot of camp talk these days, and we have to be obviously careful about, how deep we analyze certain things at this time of the year in June. But there was some recent camp footage of Cam Newton throwing some bad passes. It was like 2 clips. I'm sure he threw the ball like 100 times that day, but it was like 2 bad passes. And then it shows Mac Jones making the throws like twice. And then I saw an article about George Kittle talking about Trey Lance, and he was boosting him. So these 2 guys obviously drafted in the first round. People have some big outlooks on them. If you had a pick coming into the season, which of the 2 were to start first or get their first playing time, who comes to mind is that guy between Mac Jones for the Patriots and Trey Lance for the 49ers?
So this I don't think is a hard question. I think, look at Bill Belichick, look at the threshold he had to pull Cam out. And tell me that he's not going to put Mac Jones in at some point. I think there's a higher threshold over there on the 49ers. Jimmy G could still take this team. Like, take the quarterback out of it. You take it out. It's fine. Jimmy G can still get them. Like, let's just say everything goes right. Everyone's healthy. Jimmy G could easily take them to the Super Bowl, right? Like, he could do that. He's a capable game manager that can get the job done healthy. Is he a great quarterback? No. But is he a good quarterback that could absolutely take them there? Yes. As far as the Patriots go, we've seen Cam Newton, unfortunately, and I have said this on the show before, I adore Cam Newton. I think he drew the short stick in the league coming out of college. I think that, the league put him in the position he is in, and now he's going to plateau. Same thing with Teddy Bridgewater kind of thing. I also think Mac is more NFL ready. So between Mac being more NFL ready, add Bill Belichick, add the weaker quarterback there at this time, because I do think Cam Newton overall is better than Jimmy. So I will pull that back a little. I think that we'll see Mac sooner. Lance is easily my favorite rookie QB. Easily, like prospect, whatever, fine. But he's also one of the least NFL ready out of these top guys. There's things that he needs to learn. He waits too long to throw the ball. He needs to be a little bit quicker with his decision making, placing the ball into like a certain window. It's just some stuff is a little bit behind. He's too easily to take a sack. So I think that Lance will benefit. And what's going to be crazy is Lance will end up being probably the best guy out of all of this, because he will have sat and he would have gotten the right treatment. So Mac's ready. I think Mac could have started week 1. He won't, but he'll go in.
I like the point of seeing last year Cam in action, and I'm not knocking Cam at all, but we've seen not like a really competent offense. And I think if they do have a guy, even without the lack of like these true alpha wide receivers, if both tight ends are healthy and they're out there and you throw in Mac, who seems to be a good competent passer, I think the Patriots also can take more of a chance than the 49ers, because I think the 49ers are a team that's very amped. You mentioned Super Bowl. I think this team is very amped to like get back to there, because they just were there not super long ago. They have a great defense that's returning guys that were injured. They have 2 running backs that can get the job done. And then if Ayuk and Debo and Kittle are all healthy, this is a team that can really get to the Super Bowl. So I think them taking a chance too early on Trey Lance and him maybe not being super successful won't end up making them successful in developing him for one, and then their trip to a potential Super Bowl. So I think the Patriots have a little bit more leeway. Bill B is going to want to win every game, just like he always has had the mentality to do. But I think the 49ers just have less of the opportunity to take chances right now on a team that might fight to go back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm big on the Trey Lance thing, but I think he's very much like Josh Allen. There was a lot to learn coming into the league. There's a big learning curve. It's attainable in the right, like if you go about it the right way. So I think we'll see Trey Lance. If they sit him, it might be a quicker response than maybe we got from Josh Allen, but it's there, right? Like everything about Trey Lance, if he can get coached properly, he will be a generational quarterback, hands down. I think, you look at Mac, what are the things about Mac that are not that, a little more creativity. He can move in the pocket a little better. He's a little bit too inviting to a defense, but like he could start tomorrow. He's better than a lot of the guys that we already have to stomach up and watch. So I think we'll see Mac in the game. Bill Belichick isn't about to go play Tom Brady week 4 and not put Mac Jones at least in the game for a quarter.
Yeah, and talk about two very different game plans from Mac to Cam. I think if they're sticking to one game plan, it's going to have to be one or the other. And I think he might go with a guy that might deliver balls better to his tight ends. So good points all around there. Another piece of recent news. So maybe it's a short answer out of you for some of these, but Jamison Crowder decides to take a pay cut and go back to the Jets. I have a part A and a part B, so we'll start with the part A for this. Why take a pay cut and go back to the Jets? I think that's like my first question. Maybe he has some feelings of being part of that organization because he's been there for like 2 seasons or whatever it is. Maybe he has a tie to the coaching staff. Maybe he wants to see how this new offense rolls before he moves on. But why take a pay cut to stay on the Jets, especially when there are teams in the league that I can think of that probably could have used him?
I don't know. This one's very puzzling to me. So all I can come up with, right, is I think that he wants to prove himself. I almost think that that's the only reason that you could come up with logically because there's other teams very easily that he would have definitely benefited from. Does he think that he could absolutely, prove himself here? Probably. He's a very, he's a quality slot receiver, very quality for sure. Great security blanket here for Wilson, and I think it also allows versatility for more. So is it that Crowder feels like making him the dominant slot receiver over there, being Wilson's security blanket? Can he prove himself and then get the bag? That's where I like that. A process. Oh, I mean, because why doesn't make sense? Because I talked about this on my show, came out today. It's like we're talking about a crowded wide receiver room. I mean, there's a lot of talent over there. And a lot of people, they gave up on Mims too early, in my opinion. So I think it has to be a prove himself type of deal. And he sees the opportunity with Wilson that Wilson's going to need the security blanket, of that slot receiver that's quality. That's it.
On a quick side note, LQ says tickets to the gun show, and I think he's for sure talking about you, Stephie.
No, he's got to be talking about SpongeBob at Muscle Beach.
Hey, it is what it is. I love the points, though, because I feel like I didn't think about that enough about, which is a real thing, secure the bag. And what's the easy way to secure the bag? Have a balling out season, potentially, with a team before you move on. Because if I'm him, I'm looking at this wide receiver room and no one fears me if I'm him, a guy that does his job very, very well. When he gets thrown the ball, he catches the ball. He secures first downs a lot. He runs his routes well. But if he's looking at Corey Davis and Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims, I don't think he's looking at any of them and saying, man, this guy is for sure the wide receiver one on the team. So to your point, Stephie, which I love this point, if he can have a very good season, it's up for grabs at this point. But if he can have a good season, he might have more of a payday later than he would right now if he says, I'm going to move on and go to the Packers or the Chargers or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Especially like a young guy like Wilson, right? You know, these guys are going to come to the league and they're going to find their guy. So Wilson does not have his guy yet. And what better than the guy he knows to rely on? And I feel like out of those receivers, right? I really do feel strongly that Crowder is the most secure. And I think that's probably a little, he's polarizing to most people, but Crowder goes to any other system and he's great. But he, for some reason, wants to stay here. So,
part B of this question, Crowder. So fantasy impact. So I seen a lot of different things. I see people saying, you know, that kills Elijah Moore, who is a big slot guy. This hurts Denzel Mims. This kicks Keelan Cole out of any fantasy picture. Do you have any strong or even passive thoughts about how this affects everybody else in the system?
Well, first of all, like, I just want to make a comment. Like the Keelan Cole stuff, like, I don't understand. Like, is this like the off season is making you guys sick, or like what is going on that all of a sudden we're talking about Keelan Cole? Like, no, Keelan Cole is not like you guys are out on Mims and you want to talk about Keelan Cole. Like that blows my mind, just to be clear. So I need to make that point because I think I tweeted the other day. I'm like, it's that point in the off season where all of a sudden we're talking about Keelan Cole. Like, are you guys crazy? It's 2 passes in training, mini camp, not even training camp. So regardless, whatever. The Jets are confusing. And I think we talked about in the past, they're one of those teams where, you know, a lot of pieces, a young quarterback that doesn't have a proven guy, right? And I think people are writing Mims off too soon. I think if the Mims and Wilson connection, I spoke about it last week, were to happen, they complement each other beautifully. He's awesome in contested catches. They had him run, you know, routes that don't pair with his skills. So I'm kind of staying away from these guys. I think in Dynasty, more you can make an argument for because he is young, right? So it's easy to make a conversation for a guy that's younger, and not that any of these guys are old, but you know, I'm still not high on a lot of these. I've kind of just been sitting on my Mims shares. You know, and more fell to me, I think, in a couple of, I don't know about redraft even that I'm super excited here.
Yeah, I think for this wide receiver room, for one in a redraft draft, none of them are going to be super high on the board, right? For Dynasty, outside Elijah Moore, I don't think that anybody's going to be super expensive. Elijah Moore's a rookie coming in, so he's going to have a higher price value. But I think like find the reason why you might like one of these guys, and then maybe that's the guy you target. I mean, if you like what Corey Davis did in Tennessee, maybe Corey Davis is your redraft target. If you still have hopes for Denzel Mims' ability to catch these 40-yard passes, then go for Denzel Mims. If you believe in Elijah Moore, I'm a big Moore guy, but I'm going to stick with Moore regardless of Crowder coming. So I think you just got to find like, why do I like this receiver and what is the upside or what can he bring? And then go that route because I think they're all very similar right now in like redraft value. So.
And I just don't think like you either were in on Moore or you were out on Moore. And I think like consider Crowder impacting Moore is kind of ridiculous because Moore all this does is allow Crowder, like I said earlier, it's just like, that's going to be, you know, slot done. That's his security blanket. And then you give Moore this space to just play anywhere. And he has that versatility despite what a lot of people say about him. And I think that's actually better for his fantasy value. So I am talking myself into Moore a little bit more.
Hey,
oh my God.
No pun intended.
Bad jokes are bad now. I'm telling you, too much testosterone. That's all I'm around is all these dads.
No, nobody could hear it, but under this desk, I slapped my knee for that one.
But I think, you know, with the Jets, they're just not a redraft friendly team, period. Like some teams are dynasty friendly and some are redraft friendly. The Jets are a dynasty friendly team. Like, and the rest of them, you can start getting off waivers, you know, like it's not a big deal. You could just wait and then put them on your bench afterwards.
Last topic before we go into the bulk of our show here. Obviously, all good points there. Camp talk. We talk about camp talk all the time, coach talk, but we mentioned your injury tracker at the beginning.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence and Jonnu Smith. I think I forgot I even, I come up with these graphics before, and I forgot I even had them, but these two guys right here. There we go. Trevor Lawrence, Jonnu Smith, both popped up on injury reports with sitting out practice for hamstring issues. When these reports come out, do they concern you, maybe specifically about these two or in general?
So these two, no. I'm pretty sure, and I was just pulling up because I don't want to go back on my word, but if I am thinking correctly, I'm pretty sure, what's his face? Smith doesn't have history of a hamstring. But the bottom line is, so every injury this offseason, they're going to be cautious as hell. Like, it doesn't matter if you get cramp in your leg, you're going to be limited until training camp. Like, it doesn't matter because they need to get you to the season. Just as much as, like, players we see hurt, not participating in minicamp. It's fine. Neither of these injuries concern me. Hamstrings, obviously, think about football. It's an easy thing to hurt, right? And think about everything they're doing. Very simple to tweak it. And that's the word that they use all the time. I would be, out of these two, more concerned that Trevor Lawrence is coming off a shoulder surgery that no one talks about, or Patrick Mahomes coming off a toe surgery that's not listed on any of these things, right? So, like, there's more concerning things than, like, hurting your hamstring because you didn't stretch enough.
Yeah. I also want to add, too, so I always reference, like, playing college ball sometimes, which has nothing to do with the NFL, but you can relate to, like, camps and stuff. When we'd have these preseason camps every year for obviously different sports, soccer, we have less physical contact, but guys would get banged up in camp every single day. You'd have hamstring pulls. You'd have a guy kind of roll his ankle. You'd have a guy that just says his back's bugging him. Those are not things, in my opinion. I'm not an injury expert, but those are not things to worry about in June. If it's late August and someone pulls their hamstring, then you got to think, hey, is this guy going to play week 1? But I think in June, unless it's like a tear or something, or it's something that consistently is holding guys out on a week-to-week basis, I think you're fine just, like, reading up on these news. You can go to Stephanie's content there and find the answers. But I think, like, it's so early on, unless it's a major thing, I'm not even reading into it. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
And a quick, like, I won't ramble too much, but, like, note too, like, it's very easy to realize that all the guys with the big injuries are somehow doing fantastic. They're somehow 100%. They're not 100%. So wait until training camp, because you're going to know there's going to be too much media there. Like, just because OBJ is 100% and he's not wearing a brace doesn't mean anything, right? It's June. So they could say whatever they want. Same thing with Burrow. Like, there's big injuries that need to also be followed through with, because I think the media is going to be quick to shadow those. Just like, did anyone know Brady had knee surgery on the knee he tore his ACL on in 2008? No, because you don't hear about it, right? So they do that purposely.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think this just goes to the point we make every week. It's early. There's going to be a lot of camp talk, positive and negative. You just got to be careful how much you read into certain things without, like, clear evidence or concise news. So great point, Stephie, on all that. So what we got going on the rest of the show here, we're looking too early. So again, it's June, too early into guys for each position that did not finish as a top 12 positional player in 2020, but that we both think can in 2021. And then on the flip side, we're going to look at the list of guys that did finish as top 12 running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, as much as we can get to, and both pick a person that we think is going to fall out of that top 12 in 2021. So again, too early, but it's nice to look at these things early as we prepare for drafts and start to weigh guys out for 2021. So what I have first is the running back room. I'll just read it off really quick here. Kamara, Cook, Henry, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Zeke, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and Mike Davis. Those are your top 12 running backs. Weeks 1 through 17, we extended it to 17 just to cover a full season, PPR purposes. So we'll start with guys we think that can enter that top 12. And I'll start us off for this one. Sure. On brand. I'm going to stick with Austin Eckler, he missed 6 games this past season. Weeks 12 through 17, upon his return, Austin Eckler was the RB6. So he came back and he was doing very well for fantasy. He had some big weeks. He had a week in the 30s. He had a few in the 20s as well. Going into the season, people question Austin Eckler. What's his target share going to be like? It's not going to be the same. Herbert is not Phillip Rivers dump off pass guy. But if you look at some of the games with Justin Herbert, he had 11, he had 16, he had 9, and then he had 9 targets as some of his top targeted games from Justin Herbert. In my opinion, getting 11 and 16 and 9, those are good target games for a pass-catching running back. People think that his yards per carry is not too good. He has a career 4.7 yards per carry. Not too bad in my book. Also, if you look at the other backs in the system, this guy once played with Melvin Gordon in the same system that he was successful. Now he's battling for touches with Joshua Kelly, Justin Jackson, and Larry Roundtree. So nobody that's like really taking away tons of volume from Eckler. And the last side note here is that this offense added to their O-line in the offseason. So there's a lot of perks for Austin Eckler. I'm a big truther. And if you play in full PPR leagues and you see how he was acquainted with Justin Herbert, I think he's going to have a huge season this coming season and be a top 12 back. And I have him actually very high in my rankings right now. I'm not going to say exactly where that's going to come out later, but he's going to be high for me. Are you as optimistic or am I shooting for the stars here with this?
No, I think it's realistic. I'm like not quite as high on him as everyone else is, but then, you get into this like Twitter space and it's like, once everyone jumps on the train, I'm like, something's wrong here, So maybe that's my own panicking there that I'm like, why do you all like him? I don't want you to like him. Stop liking the guy. So I agree with you on everything you said. Like, there's no reason that he can't step into here. He also is, decently high on, my ranking as well.
So for you, somebody who did not finish in the top 12 that you feel like can in 2021, who comes to mind for you, Stephie?
Yeah. What's crazy is this is like not hard to answer, but I think there's more than one answer here. To tell me that Saquon and CMC are not going to enter this equation, right, immediately knocks 2 of these guys out. I mean, like the 2 of them barely played. Saquon played 1.5 games. CMC played 3, I think, max. Yep. Both of them, there's no reason that we're not seeing them in here. I guess Najee Harris, right? That's not even the name I was just about to say. Najee Harris, no reason he can't step in here. James Robinson's on here, so why can't ETN be on here? Antonio Gibson, I think we're going to see, this might be the most, and I'm using the word again twice in one episode, but polarizing position for these to be changing, because I think you saw a lot of injuries at the position. We also have 2-3 very good rookies coming in, and we see a lot, like Alvin Kamara finished first. I don't, he might even drop out, unfortunately, from this, given the quarterback scenario. He could definitely still be in. He's not going to be first, though. There's no way. Now with Saquon and CMC back in the equation. So this will be a very interesting list, I think, next. We will reflect on this and be surprised.
Absolutely. And I like the point of all the guys that were not in that top 12 because of injuries. You said Saquon and CMC. Nick Chubb, I think, was, but he missed a lot of time. Eckler missed some time. You had other guys that might have missed a few weeks or just weren't up to par. And then you look at who was in it, and you look at a guy like Mike Davis. I'm not going to give away my guy for who's going to drop out just yet, but you look at a guy like Mike Davis, and it was super situational because one of the best running backs was out, and he took his place. So I agree with you, because I think next year we might see a total shift in how this list ends up, just because of all the variables from this previous season.
100%.
On the flip side, so I'll start with one guy that I think is going to drop out, and it's a guy that I actually think is still going to be good for fantasy. I just don't think he's going to be as good as this previous year. Is Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was a RB10 this past season, and he did. Oh, there you go. So you can just piggyback off of me then, because I like Kareem Hunt. He's a great player, but he led in routes and targets when Chubb was healthy, but he trailed in snaps and carries, which is fine for guys that complement each other. He was RB11 without Chubb, RB13 when both played. So he was still pretty good when both were on the field. If you look at his heaviest of carries, though, it was in weeks 5, he had 20, and then in week 7, he had 18. That's when Chubb was out of the picture. I think this coming season, he's going to have similar passing work. You got to factor in OBJ coming back potentially and some other guys getting some work. But again, if you add like CMC and Saquon and Najee and Eckler and some of these other guys, I think the opportunity for Hunt, who might be a little bit more limited on his carries because of a healthy Nick Chubb, I don't see him finishing top 12. If you said he was going to finish top 15, top 17, sure. But I just don't think top 12 is realistic. And it sounds like we're on the save wave for this.
Yeah, for sure. And even I'm looking it over again, and there really is a couple, question marks here. Even, David Montgomery, not 100% positive that he will enter. I could put question marks also around Josh Jacobs, which is surprising that he's sitting there at 8, right? People talk a lot of crap about this guy. Please remember he finished very high. You bring in an identical player that is Drake. Does that knock him maybe out of this equation? Possibly. Does Zeke continue to be on the decline that he presented last season with CD and Dak maybe getting that spicy connection? There's a lot of names here, but I think I agree with you. I think especially, you have OBJ coming back. The team is heating up. I kind of see, him falling. He's going to lose some targets, and I think it won't be enough to push him over, especially just CMC and Saquon in general. How do you talk about some of these guys in the equation?
Absolutely. And I think there were some obvious ones. So I'm glad we kind of agree on Hunt, because obviously I think a lot of us might not have James Robinson in the top 12. Maybe he has a crazy season still, but there's so many other factors that would push him to really be that high, or Mike Davis to be that high again. But like you said earlier, I think it's a list that's going to change a lot come 2020 versus 2021. The wide receiver position, this one's tough because there's 1,000 wide receivers in the league, and there's so many guys that can perform well. But looking off this past season, had Adams 1, and then going down the list, you had Hill, then Diggs, then Hopkins, Ridley, Jefferson, Metcalf, Lockett, Robinson, Thielen, Evans, and A.J. Brown. So that was your top 12 PPR 1 through 17. A guy that I want to talk about, I think you said before you weren't super high on him, and I don't want to be like this weird like Chargers like truther, but I think that Keenan Allen can finish in the top 12, but I would have him closer to the 10 to the 12 range. This past season, he was the wide receiver 14. He missed 2 games, 10.5 targets per game. That's a lot. That's a lot. He actually had 10 games this season with 10 or more targets. And then there was 2 games where he had 19 targets, which is crazy to me. That means they're throwing the ball to him almost 20 times on 2 occasions. That's insane. The fantasy scoring was very good. 6 games with 20 plus fantasy points. He was 6th in fantasy points per game, 5th in targets with 147 targets. And then if we look at the red zone, 5th in fantasy points scored in the red zone. So we know that Justin Herbert likes Keenan Allen. It's all on paper. It's all in the target share. I think Mike Williams healthy can do things, but they didn't like add like a Julio like they could have, or one of the better wide receivers in this previous rookie class. So it's pretty much the same team. I think they added 1 rookie, but not a lot has changed outside of adding the veteran, Jared Cook, and then I think it was Palmer to this program. So I think if he finished 14 and Justin Herbert gets more acquainted, I can't see any world where he cannot finish like 10 to 12.
No, I agree with you. I don't disagree. And the also thing is with Herbie, right? They brought in my favorite tackle. I'm telling you guys, he's going to transition better than Penny Sewell. And it's nothing against him. I'm just talking transition from being in the NCAA to the NFL. It's a different game, totally different animal. And we've seen Pac-12 guys struggle more than we're ever going to see, Slater come in here. You give Herbert just that much more time in the pocket, forget about it. So I completely agree with you. I think that's a good call on your part. I'm actually surprised he didn't fall into this, because I think is this PPR, right? Because in standard, I think he does enter the equation. So I think it's the PPR part that kind of kicks him out.
Yeah, and he missed those 2 games too. So I mean, factor in one more game, and he's right in that mix. But who's one of your guys that you think outside of the top 12 in 2020, but 2021 you think could be inside that top 12?
CeeDee Lamb. That's it. I mean, like, and I say this a lot, and I probably sound repetitive, and I don't like using on pace. The only time I'm going to use on pace, and I think it's theatrical, but to be on pace for 6,700 yards for Dak, even if that's off by 2,000 yards, right? The yards need to go somewhere. And I think they're going to CeeDee. The two of them have not, we saw what CeeDee could do without Dak. Imagine those two together, a full season. I mean, without question, I could see him enter this equation. There's no reason why not.
And I think what's very important too is for these guys that were on teams that had their quarterbacks get injured, or on the vice versa, quarterback had wide receiver get injured. If they played a handful of weeks with their quarterback, you have to look at what they did. And for a brand new guy in the league to get acquainted with Dak when Amari Cooper is also demanding targets. I mean, Amari Cooper, I think with Dak during that time had more fantasy points, but at the same time, this is a brand new guy to the system, brand new guy to the league. I mean, this guy was also either the wide receiver 1 or the wide receiver 2 for 90% of people, unless people want to get cute and say Justin Jefferson was my guy, because I doubt it. But I like that, because I struggle sometimes with like Cooper and Lamb, but at the same time, like Lamb's talent coming into this league was like unquestioned. They knew he was going to be great. And with Dak, he was very good. And that the Cowboys are going to throw the ball a lot.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I like totally ran out of time today. I was trying to look for the stat I saw. But I mean, CeeDee Lamb did step into like record-breaking conversation for certain stats. And like, don't quote me on that because I can't think of exactly what it is, but I will find it and I'll tweet it out later. But like, to do that with the very questionable, very average quarterbacks that he did step into that question, I almost, I think Zeke maybe not playing as well that he has in the past actually helped CeeDee. And I think that CeeDee, Dak, people forget how great Dak is. And the defense is not going to be as good as everyone says. I don't care who you draft. You can do whatever you want. That offense is going to be on the field a lot. The O-line is coming back. No reason that CeeDee Lamb cannot step into this equation.
I have to ask, because it's a great question. It's from one of my best friends from back home. So Shotgun Fantasy. Who would you rather have in Dynasty, CD or Chase? Man, that's a tough one. I feel like that's tough. Do you have a clear answer for that?
Well, first I want to comment. I don't like the way that Amari Cooper's post-surgery is going. I want to comment that really quick. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that he's not doing well, basically. But anyways, I think I would go CD at this point, only because I trust, and I'm not going to say the Cowboys system. I trust the Cowboys offense. So let's be clear. I trust the Cowboys offense because of what they are, more than I trust, the Bengals as a whole kind of thing.
I think I agree, and I agree to the extent that it's a great question. I think that's a great question. We haven't seen Chase at the NFL level. We haven't seen him in the Bengals system. We have seen CeeDee Lamb in the NFL, and we've seen him with Dak Prescott, who we all regard pretty highly. So I might say CeeDee Lamb as well, but I'm not going to say it's like this crazy gap as of right now. A year from now, maybe we're looking back and saying, man, it's not close. It's not close. But as of today, I'm going to go and agree with you, Stephie, that it's CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
We'll go back to the wide receiver. So we'll flip things around. Let's talk about a guy we think might fall out of the top 12 that was top 12 in 2020. All these like 12s and 2s and 0s are throwing me off right now. But my guy that was top 12 that I think is not going to be top 12.
You steal my guy again, I swear.
Hey, do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
All right. I'll let you go first on the next one. But my guy's Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 8. So Lockett, 46%. I got this off of ESPN, the app. 46% of Tyler Lockett's fantasy points came in 3 games. So 46, almost half of his fantasy points were in 3 games this year. Extremely boomer bust. He had those huge 37, 53, 33 fantasy weeks that really bumped him up for this. But then he also had 7 games this past season under 10 points. So he's been a top 16 guy the last 3 years. And I think that his quarterback is good at football. And I think that Metcalf complements him well. But I think the fact that he was so like bent on those like 3 massive games, that I think that in this next season coming up, he might have some big games again. But if he's going to be this boomer bust guy that's going to be there and not there, there and not there, I think the wide receiver position is just way too competitive for him to finish as a top 12 guy. If you said he finishes top 16, 17, 18, fine. Maybe we can make the points for that. But I do not see Tyler Lockett as a top 12 wide receiver.
Yeah, you did it again. So I will try to come up with something for everyone else. So not that I think he'll fall out of 12, but let's just say hypothetically that Aaron Rodgers does not go back to Green Bay. Someone explain to me how Davante Adams stays like top 12 fantasy relevant. How is Jordan Love feeding him the ball to finish at wide receiver 1? You know? It's going to be hard for that with some of these younger guys stepping into the equation. You know, I don't know if Jordan Love can get him the ball at that level. Will he be in the top 12? Probably. So am I not really answering the question? No. But will he drop down several spots? Yeah, I think so. I think we're looking at a problem without Aaron Rodgers. I think you see Aaron Jones almost go up, and Davante Adams go down.
I think that your point is solid, because I think it's 2 different seasons if he does and does not have his quarterback. I do see that outlook. So I think Packers will probably like force feed him the ball a bit, but at the same time, it's going to be tough when you have Jordan Love or Blake Bortles throwing you the ball, I think. So good point there.
How successful is the thing. It's got to be successful. So you can feed someone the ball, but the New York Giants also fed Evan Ingram the ball. And he had 1 touchdown with 100 and something targets. So you can only be so successful if it's just not working.
I agree. Let's get to the tight end position. We'll see how far we can get here. I know this is a position you like to personally hoard in some of your drafts and some of your leagues. So let's throw that on the board here. So Travis Kelce, then Darren Waller, Robert Tonyan, Logan Thomas, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, Rob Gronkowski, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, Dalton Schultz, and then Hunter Henry. I think there was a clear guy missing from this picture. I'll let you start off on both of these, Stephie. What are we thinking here for the tight end position? Who's the guy missing from this list that you think can be on this list in 2021?
Everyone knows I'm going to say Jonnu Smith, right? Like Jonnu Smith is going to be on this list. You don't go in free agency, grab Jonnu Smith, grab Hunter Henry, and not plan to do a 12 personnel and just feed the tight ends the ball, especially with the wide receiver core that you have, if you want to call it a core. So I think that without question, Jonnu has to step into this equation. We all know Kyle Pitts, I'm sure, is the name that, is immediately being thought of when you bring up tight ends. But I think without a doubt, Jonnu can step into this equation.
All right. And I think he's in a system that's going to utilize both guys. I know people are hesitant about, which Patriots tight end do I roster? And I think the fact that they still to this day do not have a clear-cut wide receiver 1, I can see a system that utilizes both tight ends highly because nobody else is really demanding like 150 targets in that system. So
right.
I don't hate it.
They're 2 of the better receiving backs probably in the league if you were to look at it. So I think it was very much well thought out. I mean, Bill Belichick doesn't do anything without thinking.
You'll have to judge me on mine because and it's not like a hot take or anything like that. I see some people like this guy a lot, and I can see him finishing as the tight end 12. So I'm not saying tight end 5, 6, 7. I'm going to say tight end 12, right at the edge of that. But I like the opportunity for Irv Smith Jr. this season coming up. And looking at the games that I know Rudolph is now a New York Giant. You've mentioned him before in a previous podcast, but looking at some of the games this past season, the last 4 games, Kyle Rudolph did not play. Irv Smith actually excelled in those games. He had 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games with no Rudolph. 2 of those games, he had 16.3 and then 23.3 fantasy points. So he had good weeks without Rudolph in the system. Top 10 in fantasy points scored in the red zone. He had 2 games where he had 2 touchdowns in those 2 games. The guy turns 23 in August. He's almost like a rookie coming out of this last draft class, even though he's a year 3 guy. He has a career 73.3% catch rate. I look at him at Bama and what he did at Bama, and we have to look at these guys as prospects sometimes to see what maybe their capabilities are. And at Bama, he caught 44 balls for 710 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in 2018. So this is a guy that came into the league as a pass catcher. And I think the fact that Rudolph is not there to annoy his volume in targets and touchdown or red zone targets, I think that gives him a bit of a boost. I know that Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook all are guys that will have passes caught in this offense, but I just kind of believe in what he brings to the system, and I think that he can fight for a top 12 spot. Do you like Irv Smith coming into this year, Stephie, or are you kind of out on him?
I like Irv Smith. What I don't like, and Nick and I not agree, I actually agree with you, I just don't fully agree, is Kyle Rudolph only had 37 targets. We're not talking about a lot here. He did not get the ball a lot. So I think the argument outside of Kyle Rudolph can step into the equation, because I don't think that Kyle Rudolph, everyone I think is kind of, what's the right word? Hitching on to the idea that with Kyle Rudolph gone, I don't think Kyle Rudolph should be the reason why you want Irv Smith. I think what you said should be the reason you want Irv Smith, but Rudolph really was not a game player last year, at all. And I think a lot of people don't realize that he really was not on the field a lot.
Who's your guy on the flip side? We'll go back to you so I don't potentially snipe you on this one. And I do agree to that point, not to cut off that point, but that's a good point because Rudolph, again, like you said, the target share wasn't there. I think year 1 of Irv Smith, they kind of split in targets. So that's a true factor. I guess the only thing to note is that Rudolph did get some looks in the red zone, and now that might be gone. But at the same note, some of these other factors might help Irv Smith. But again, this is a guy that might be 3rd or 4th in the pecking order. But top 12, I think, is attainable. Who's your guy that for tight ends, you're saying, hey, he's not going to finish as a top 12 in 2021?
Yeah, I've probably already pissed off enough people that'll keep this one a little bit easier than maybe as hot takey. But I think it's very easy to say that Hayden Hurst is not going to be in this equation, right? Let's just be it's just not happening. And I don't think that, he can fall where he falls. But you bring Kyle Pitts in. Kyle Pitts, as much as he plays like a receiver, he's a tight end. So he's going to score as a tight end, and he's going to be in this, top 12 here. It's almost, and if he isn't, then a lot of people are going to have overreached for him, I think. They're going to have traded for him for too much. And I think with Julio gone, the targets are going to go to Pitts. They're going to partly go to Ridley, but mainly Pitts. And I think Hayden Hurst takes the short stick here.
I do too. And a lot of people I've seen, and I don't knock these people's analysis, but a lot of people have said that he still has the capability to be on the field and still be very relevant for fantasy. And I just disagree, because I feel like he just came into a system where Austin Hooper left, and he came into a wide open starting position, and he had a good opportunity. He did some decent things in 2020. But on the flip side, this is a guy that's been a second string tight end for the beginning of his career. I don't really see him fighting off huge targets for even a guy like Russell Gage. I'm not trying to boost Russell Gage right now, but I don't think Hayden Hurst is going to be the 3rd or 4th targeted guy in this offense. So I'm with you, and I just think he might be out there to block at times, because Kyle Pitts is going to be run like a wide receiver.
Exactly it. And he's a big boy. He's a big tight end that can block. And I think also take numbers aside, just use the eye test. It's laughable that Hurst was in the top 12, right? it's almost embarrassing to some other tight ends, in my opinion, that get very gassed up. So I think with Kyle Pitts coming in, all due respect to Hurst, he's just the tight end 2 here. It's kind of the situation. And we're talking tight end 2 to a glorified tight end.
Yeah, I completely agree there. My guy was might be obvious. Maybe some people don't think so, but I think Gronk's going to have a hard time being top 12. I mean, he was tight end 8 this past season, but his targets per game not super good. I think he was reliant on some bigger plays. The depth of his targets at time was actually big and pretty good. I think he scores touchdowns, from time to time. That helps his fantasy stock. But if you look at, I'm not going to say OJ Howard's going to have a big season, but when he was healthy, he was targeted more times than Gronk was. Cameron Brate is annoying for Gronk at times. You got Evans, Godwin. You have Antonio Brown now for a full season, maybe. Leonard Fournette gets targets. You got these 2 young guys in Tyler Johnson and Jalen Darden. I mean, I think there's just so many guys that can eat up targets that unless this guy is scoring every week, I don't see him as being a massive factor to make him a top 12 guy in 2021.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think you saw that. Like, Gronk came out of retirement, like Antonio Brown got signed, Leonard Fournette, bring all these guys in the equation. They did not come onto the team to be your fantasy darling. They came on the team to win a Super Bowl, which they showed you because they basically barely played Gronk for weeks prior to the Super Bowl. And then the Super Bowl came along and you saw Gronk, go out and do Gronk things. Gronk should be retired because Gronk is held together by duct tape. So he is there. Bear down, go Wildcats. Got it. Cool. Love you, Gronk. But at the end of the day, he's not there to be the main guy. And I think Howard, I've been trying to follow. They're being pretty quiet about his rehab, but it seems like he's in a good position to be ready for training camp. So I'm still in on Howard as well. And I think if Howard does come back healthy, you see them preserving Gronk for the playoffs, for tougher games. That's how Tampa is built. Even the wide receivers, it's hard to tell what week you can play who.
And I completely agree to all those points. And I think he is a guy that, hey, like Leonard Fournette last season, he wasn't the lead back, but come playoff time, they had a plan. And I think that's going to be very similar to this year. Like, hey, come playoff time, we're going to implement Gronk more than we do during the season. Right. My number one thing, I probably have like 3 things I look for in a tight end. My number one thing personally, and it's going to be different from person to person, is target share. Some of the best tight ends have some of the highest target shares on their team, and I don't see that, and that's the reason I'm out.
Yeah, for sure.
We're close to an hour, so instead of like going deep into these, just list off, and we can maybe talk about another time. Just give me your into the top 12, out of the top 12 for quarterbacks. And then I'll say mine, and then we'll just wrap up the podcast
Can you
from there.
Pull them up. My phone just died, and I know you
no,
and
problem.
I don't want to. I was just on a show, and sometimes it's hard to realize where people are pulling their data from. Okay,
I agree. So I'll read it off just for the people that listen on iTunes and stuff like that. Josh Allen, then Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, and Matt Ryan. And again, we are looking at weeks 1 through 17. And I can't say PPR because I think it kind of goes out the window for that. So who do you think's in and out, unless you want me to go first?
You can go first. Why don't you go on this one?
So I would take the scapegoat and say that Deshaun Watson's going to be out of there just because he might not play. But I'll go into it another time. I think Matt Ryan is not going to be top 12. And on the plus side, I think Matt Stafford will be top 12.
Okay.
So
fair. Love it. I think that the Vikings drafting Kellen Mond makes me think that they're going to eventually get a little freaky with their quarterbacks in and out.
That's a Jalen Hurts quote right there. Get a little freaky on the field. Yeah, he said that in an interview. He said they said something, and he's like, I'm just trying to get a little freaky on the field. Yeah.
No, but I really think at some point, I don't know. I think Cousins is at some point gonna have to, not quite be there. I don't know. He's just ready. Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, also Wilson, an interesting name to think about here. Saw the way he played. Interesting. He'll probably still be in the top 12, but I think he's year after year starting to slow down. I also think people forget that Mahomes did not finish as the top. Like, let's be clear. But I think Tannehill will move up. You know, a lot of these guys we saw who will come into this. God, I don't know. There's so many people that I could be a homer. I could say Daniel Jones. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have one that I know is going to come in. I think there's too many question marks around a lot of these teams.
Yeah, I agree to that. I know you're not maybe as high as I am on Jalen Hurts. I think he's interesting just because of the rushing upside and if he connects with Devonta Smith well in Dallas Goedert. But there's some. It'll be interesting for the quarterback position. I think it might be most difficult because I feel like so many seasons, a lot of these guys are in the same range, and then it takes like a year for them to get kicked out of it. Like you're saying, it might be Kirk Cousins' time as far as being up. But again, Stephie, appreciate your time. Always a good episode, Skrip 2 Ships. And again, Stephie and I are trying to talk about some diverse topics here, mix things up on a weekly basis to help you guys win some championships with the play to win mantra there. So, Stephie, before we close things out, can you remind everybody where to find you on social media? And then if you want to plug anything that you got coming up.
All right. Quickly, was Burrow on that list? It's going to drive me crazy if I don't ask. And then I'll say
no, because he was hurt. So.
Okay, so Burrow could enter this equation. That's all.
There you go.
And Dak wasn't on there, right? So there's guys.
Yep, there you go. Okay, there's some guys.
So that easily knocks Cousins and Ryan out. So you guys can find me at Stephie Smalls with 3 L's. Injury tracker, check it out on FTM Fantasy. Very easy to see. I'm updating it twice a day as best I can. The beat writers are not the best about sharing, and I'd rather get my information elsewhere. And then my show, Small Talk, everything's on FTN and on my Twitter. Show's blast and go Nets.
I was about to say, are they going to close the series tonight?
I don't know. I'm stressed. We need Harris to stop playing. You know, he's playing like Ingram did.
It's funny too, just to close things out. It's funny that like this deep into the playoffs, they're like Giannis was one of the defensive players of the year. Maybe we should put him on Kevin Durant, who's one of the best scorers of the past decade. So that's always funny to look at.
It's very funny.
All right. Well, Stephie, you have a good night. And thank you guys for watching either live or listening on the podcast. Really appreciate that. And enjoy the rest of everybody's night. Happy Almost Friday.